Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We've got a ton of Q and a ton of things to talk about today. So put on your Q pants. You know what? Just put on some pants. God, you're embarrassing the whole family. All right. Now, before we get started on this Q, I want to let you know something. One of my viewers pointed this out, brought it up to my attention, that all these posts are posted in Eastern Standard Time. And as many of you know, in the United States, a lot of you are observing Eastern Daylight Time, which is actually the more accurate time. Now, I very few times in my life have ever observed daylight time. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. However, my viewer's right. Q would be posting in EDT, so that'd be an hour later. So when I read these posts here, 10:20, we're actually talking about 11:20. I hope that makes sense. My viewer is right, and I think thank you for pointing that out to my attention. Although I knew it, I don't think I've ever really I haven't brought it up in a long time. I know that. And like I said, I live on the other side of the world, so this isn't my time zone either. So I'm converting twice every time I read this. Now, that being said, in the spirit of fairness, I'm going to attempt to convert it in my head as I go. I may mess up from time to time, but let me give it a shot and see what I can do. So essentially, I'm going to be reading this as 20 minutes after the hour of 11. Does that make sense? Okay. That being said, let's read some Q. Post 1719 at 20 minutes after the hour of, yep, you guessed it, 11. Twitter, near 20% slide. Facebook, near 20% slide. All because of missed earnings. What does the street know? Insiders dumping. DC moves slow in brackets. At Jack. MZB Mark Zuckerberg. Your hands are dirty. Q. Post 1720, we are brought to this old picture here. Q says, when does a bird sing? Adding on to that, post 1721, 50 minutes after the hour of 11, 59, excuse me. We get this picture added on. Looks like we got ourselves a Lisa Page spotting. Q says, keep your promise. This is not a game. Q. Post 1722, 58 minutes after the hour of 11. Adding on to that, Q says, public awareness forces hand. Q. Post 1723, 12 o'clock. Adding on to that. P.S. Peter Strzok, round 2. In brackets, we have lead investigator, HRC/Russia. Q. Post 1724. 11 minutes after the hour of 12. Adding on to that, we get this February post. Warning, UK, London, possible car attack. _24 strike package B-7V warning _UK _im chatter X-ray 7 chatter. I don't know what you call that thing. Somebody told me, but I don't remember. Q Delta. Q adds on to this saying warning to UK decipher regarding last redacted FISA in brackets Q. Adding on to that, post 1725, 14 minutes after the hour of 12. We get this picture here. And Q confirms. Post 1726. 32 minutes after the hour of 12. We get this post here from June 27th. Peter Strzok, text taken out of context. Peter Strzok, while emotional over the election, I conduct myself with utmost integrity without bias while undertaking any such investigation, especially a high-profile case against the POTUS. In hindsight, it was a bad idea to openly discuss my feelings, but in no way did those feelings impact my ability to conduct a fair and proper investigation. We followed where the facts took us. Peter Strzok, I declined to answer that question on advice from counsel. When you state where facts led us, what facts are you referring to? To date, there have been zero evidence of any such collusion and connections between the Trump campaign and Russia. In fact, the only facts discovered thus far have been between the Clinton camp and Russia and other foreign groups. Peter Strzok, on advice of counsel, I decline to answer that question. Peter Strzok, because of the ongoing investigation, such answers may violate the security of such investigations. Mr. Strzok, I believe nobody here is buying what you were selling. I believe there is a serious effort on the part of people more senior than you to remove Mr. Trump from office out of fear of what this administration may uncover. I believe you are being dishonest in your answers and frankly shocked you agreed to come here today. I believe everyone on this panel, minus those from the other side of the aisle, knew exactly what your answers would be, and if you think we are going to sit here and accept these answers, you would be foolish. We are also following the facts, and once we uncover more, which we will act accordingly. I'm glad you retained counsel. You'll need one, and hopefully they are very, very good. Q. Post 1727, 33 minutes after the hour of 12. An Anon post says, Gina Haspel. The CIA London station is the main center of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency in the UK. Station chief, and I would assume the COS is chief of station, unnamed woman, C. 2009. Those ordered to testify against the former CIA chief, Porter J. Gross. Another is a woman who is not publicly named who heads the agency's London station. She previously worked as the chief of staff for the head of the CIA's clandestine branch, Jose Rodriguez, who is the focus of the investigation. And then we have a link here, and Q confirms. Post 1728, 14 minutes after the hour of 1. We get this picture from a while back of this missile. Q says, unauthorized missile fired. Unauthorized emergency incoming missile threat activated, Hawaii. POTUS, Air Force One. POTUS rewrote. Coincidence? No. MSM investigation. Biggest threat to the American people. Q. Post 1729, 17 minutes after the hour of 1. Where did the missile go? Blown up in the sky? Q says F-16s intercept. Q. Post 1730, 21 minutes after the hour of 1. An F-16 can shoot a missile out of the air? Q says Specialized Weapons Package, Class 5. Q. 1731, 23 minutes after the hour of 1. Who has the authority to launch a missile? Q said unauthorized, so, and Q says given chain of command process to launch. What does this tell you? Classified removal, Washington, minutes after. Q. Post 1732, 25 minutes after the hour of 1. Given chain of command process to launch, what does this tell you? Classified removal, Washington, minutes after. Q adds on, specific reason for the reminder. Everything stated has a purpose. Q. Post 1733, 49 minutes after the hour of 1. We're taken to this May post. Facebook is listening to you 24/7, 365. Literally. F9 algorithm. Are they recording safe housing? Metadata collection? Building 8? DARPA. China, China, China. Q. Q adds on, who recently pulled out of Facebook? Artificial support. What events recently occurred in China regarding Facebook? Then we have this New York Times article. Why did China suddenly reverse course? The more you know. Q. Post 1734, 58 minutes after the hour of 1. We get this Hill article. POTUS ducks reporters because we are in the storm. Q says a message that nobody but who understands. Post 1735, 13 minutes after the hour of 2. There is nothing more precious than our children. Evil has no boundaries. And then we have a Slayer link. The choice to know will ultimately be yours. These people are sick. We have a Fox News link. To those who are courageous enough to speak out, we stand with you. You are not alone in this fight. God bless. Q. Post 1736. We have this picture right here. Q says, what are the odds? Q. Post 1737, 51 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. Device test. Q. Post 1738, 52 minutes after the hour of 3. Device test. E. Post 1739, 52 minutes after the hour of 3. Device test. X. And post 1740, 53 minutes after the hour of 3. Device test. C. Q. Okay, let's take you back to the beginning, because if I took you to the middle, you'd be so confused. Post 1719, Twitter near 20% slide, Facebook near 20% slide, all because of missed earnings. What does the street know? Well, fear not, my fine feathered friends. Sir Patrick Mack has got some connections to the street. As a matter of fact, I guess you could say that I've got some street cred. Let's see what the numbers guys are saying on the street.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You know, it might have been a different street I was looking for. I was looking for 120 billion. That was the number I was looking for, but 7's good too. Anyway, Q says Twitter near 20% slide. Yeah, they are tanking. And it happened literally right after I posted my video last night. And we were just talking about it. I found that very amazing and it wasn't hard to predict. We knew it was coming. It was at any moment. Q said there was going to be a big drop, and that's a massive drop. Facebook already had just an absolutely astounding drop, near 120 billion now, all because of missed earnings. Well, both of these conglomerates were padding their stats basically by having all these fake accounts. And of course, they were also shadow banning conservative accounts, and that's starting to come to light now too. And I think we're going to start to see that in relations to how it affected our elections, the campaign, and this and that. Remember also, this platform, YouTube, is pumping in $25 million to combat fake news. So the whole point was for all these different platforms, whether it be Google, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, Instagram, they were working on getting the conservative view completely basically shuffled out of the deck so that nobody would be able to find this stuff. And they were probably hoping that that was going to influence the election. And of course, we know all about CrowdStrike and their ability to kind of fudge the numbers as far as the election goes. So we're starting to see the misdeeds really, really come to light. Is in relations to DC, Q says DC moves slow. And Q said it in the previous post as well too. DC moves slow. Now, if you didn't watch my video from last night, please go back and check it out. I spoke at length about the kind of the whole slow walking scenario in regards to DC. But Wall Street can move fast. Silicon Valley can move fast. The law can move fast. And insiders obviously know something. They're dumping like crazy. And I think we're going to probably see some, I would imagine at some point, some arrests, because this is insider trading. It's clearly illegal, especially on this scale. So who's to know? But lots of these people are dumping. Remember, I talked about this yesterday as well too. Twitter. Jack Dorsey dumped a ton of Twitter long ago. I guess it wasn't that long ago. It seems like long ago, but he went into mobile payments Square with Suhail Rizvi. Remember that name. He will come back in this story. And now we see so much of this Facebook dump accounts for Mark Zuckerberg. And he was also trying to promote a mobile payment app through Facebook. And I don't think that ever went through. Now, remember also, Facebook has a massive connection to China. Mark Zuckerberg was trying to get a Facebook launched in China. And it was going to be slightly different, and it was really going to be a bunch of course, like all this stuff is, data collection and facial recognition software. They basically wanted to spy on China. Now, they wanted to do it the same really in any country. It was the same thing, but they were going to be able to pull it off in China. And now China has backed out of that as well. So that only adds on to Facebook's problems. So these major social media platforms are taking a massive nosedive. And I have to admit, it's very enjoyable to watch this happen, watch these guys squirm. It remains to be seen how this all ends up. But I think that we're going to see the convergence of this narrative merging eventually with the DC narrative as we realize exactly how intertwined these social media platforms were in regards to affecting our elections and affecting conservative views that were not allowed to express their views. And now we have Mueller, who's investigating President Trump's tweets, right? I don't think he's going to be able to pull that off. But again, that's the outward narrative story. And at the same time, we've got Trump complaining about things like Facebook and particularly Twitter, shadow banning conservative content, acting like he just got wind of it. He's very clear. He already knows about this. So very interesting and exciting times. Don't be surprised if we see a lot more shadow banning going on. Twitter and Facebook are dumping all these dummy accounts like crazy. And I know that I just read a story today about Facebook banning a ton of conservative content out in Germany, considering it hate speech. So this is going to get uglier before it gets any better. But really, really interesting times. Q says, at Jack Mark Zuckerberg, your hands are dirty. And I think we already knew that. So it remains to be seen how long it's going to take to finally get these guys, into a some sort of day of reckoning. But Q says, your hands are dirty. I think that is no surprise to any of you viewers. So let's go ahead and move on. Next post, 1720. We get taken to this picture right here. Q says, when does a bird sing? And here's a bigger version of the picture. Now, we saw this picture set first appear back in February, and it looks like it was cold here in London. Now, this exact picture takes you here. And what we're seeing here, if you can follow my mouse at this intersection here, this group is crossing, making a left, and they're crossing the street here, and it looks like they're getting caught from a security camera, which would have been, looks like it might have been mounted to the bridge here, and that's where you're seeing. Let me show you the perspective again. Looks like the bridge looking down at them. And then here's another picture in the next post from Q, showing that it looks like to be Lisa Page. Q is acknowledging that. Now, this crew would have been turning left. I'm assuming they would have been going straight up here to the Corinthia Hotel. Now, the Corinthia Hotel we've talked about in the past, but if you're new to this, they're linked to a lot of spy movies been filmed there. The premiere of Red Sparrow was held there. There's been a lot of rumors that there's secret rooms there, and it shouldn't be any surprise. After all, back here right behind it is Great Scotland Yard, and right across the street you have the National Liberal Club. So lots of fun going on in this area. Could this be our MI6 location? I think it probably is very, very likely. So let's look at the picture again. And we're assuming that that's going to be Lisa Page. Now let me take you to the other picture. Now this man looks considerably taller. Could be Peter Strzok. It looks to me like it could very well be James Comey. Not really sure. And then Q says, when does a bird sing? Well, a bird sings usually when they're caged. And of course, Songbird was a nickname for John McCain. Could that be our guy down here with the white hair there? Now, we have an Anon here that posted this on 8chan earlier, stating that the lady could be Lisa Page, of course, and then Peter Strzok, that would be Gina Haspel, John Carlin, and then no name at the bottom, John P. Carlin there. So I'm not really sure. Gina Haspel could very well be a very good fit, and we're going to talk about her in a little bit. But I still think that very well could be Comey. It could very well be Peter Strzok as well, too. Now, we kind of placed Peter Strzok and Lisa Page in London around this time, and it would have been winter. This would have been well over a year ago. So this would have been right around Crossfire hurricane time. And Q asked this recently as well too. When was No Name in the UK? We couldn't really find much stuff there. Could this photo be placing McCain in the UK? I'm not really sure, but that's what I see so far. Now let's take you to the next post. Q gives us this comparison, which I've already showed you here. So Q is obviously showing us that this is Lisa Page. That's one that we know. And Q says, keep your promise. This is not a game. Well, Lisa Page gave some testimony, and it was not a public hearing, so we weren't able to hear everything. But we did find out that a lot of her testimony conflicted with Peter Strzok, and that should be very interesting. And she kind of balked at it for a while. She didn't want to show up. She was going to ignore the subpoena. It turned out to be okay, and everyone said that she cooperated fine. Q always said that she was a cooperating witness. Now Q is saying, keep your promise, this is not a game. And in post 1722, Q adds on to that, public awareness forces hand. So I'm not exactly sure what that would mean. To me, my first thought was that it very well could be that she gets called as well to do a public testimony, and we'll get a little bit more telling into that in the next post as well too, where Q adds on saying Peter Strzok, round 2, lead investigator, HRC Russia. And if you remember, Peter Strzok was the lead investigator into Hillary Rodham Clinton's emails. And so he's likely going to get called back for a round 2. Mark Meadows was just talking about that. And this should be very interesting because we got his very defiant first round 1. And then Lisa Page was, at least from what we were told, quite the opposite. She was very engaging and she was very forthcoming. They said she was a very good witness. We don't really know. So my guess is, could this lead to Lisa Page going public and showing the contradiction between her and Peter Strzok? That would lend to this public awareness forces hand. Maybe they're putting the pressure on her to do that and do that before, because we know that Peter Strzok in round 2 is probably going to be more defiant and more prepared. And who knows, maybe part of that stalling was in order for them to get their story straight. I'm not really sure, but it looks like Peter Strzok could be making news again and coming back to show us another little slither dance. Let's take a look at that again. Next post, 1724. Q adds on by taking us back to this February 16th post, which is what I was talking about. This is the first time we ever saw this picture in London, and it was labeled NSA Traffic Cam London 2847. And above it says, warning, UK, London, possible car attack, maybe under 24 hours, not sure. Strike package B7V, that very well could be the vehicle. Warning, UK, imminent chatter. X-ray 7, again, I'm assuming referring back to either the vehicle or number of vehicles in the group, not really sure. Chatter increasing. Q Delta. And Q says, UK, stay alert, Q. Now, Q adds on here, warning to UK, decipher regarding last redacted FISA. So could this have been not a warning necessarily to the UK themselves, but an operative inside the UK, particularly an operative that might have been investigating the emails? Now, this operative could very well be a black hat or white hat pretending to be a black hat. I'm not really sure. But in the next post here, Q gives us this picture, which seems a little bit out of place. Seems like some sort of utility box or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it's got a QAnon sticker on it. And I'm not exactly sure what Q wants to tell us by adding on and relating to this, except that I maybe wondered if this was part of the warning. Remember yesterday we talked about these pictures that have codes in them. Could this picture have had a code in it? Or could this sticker here have had a code in it, and an operative could have just walked by and been able to decipher the code with their phone by getting these pictures? Maybe they were following the white rabbit and these stickers were getting posted all over, and that was how they were communicating. Here's the same picture enlarged, just a little bit bigger. We can see the numbers better. And a lot of Anons on 8chan are placing this in the London Underground near Westminster Abbey. So if I take you back over to the Googly map, you'll see that I have that marked there with the red dot near the center of your screen. If you go up the river here, this is where our crew would have been going, taking a left. And that would have taken them. I don't know if you can still see my mouse, but I'm hovering up towards the right corner, upper right corner. That would be the Corinthia Hotel. A little bit further would take you to Trafalgar Square, and then over near the center left of your screen, Buckingham Palace. And those 3 points make almost a perfect triangle with St. James Park in the middle. So that would be the general idea. My only guess is that Q wants to place us in that area somewhere, and perhaps this was sort of a place where people could kind of gather information as they come and go. Like I say, we're not really sure about the picture, but very well possibly could be that information was being exchanged, maybe by either scanning these stickers, or maybe there's something near or in this utility box. Who knows? Maybe these were markers, or maybe Q's just saying, hey, I'm big in Europe. We don't know yet. We will see, but those are my guesses. Let's move you on to the next post. Post 1726. Looks like we're going back 1 month to June 27th. Q is showing us part of Peter Strzok's testimony. Peter Strzok says text taken out of context. Okay. So when you said you were going to stop the president, maybe it just meant you were going to stop, collaborate, and listen. While emotional over the election, I conduct myself with utmost integrity, without bias, while undertaking any such investigation, especially a high-profile case against the POTUS. In hindsight, it was a bad idea to openly discuss my feelings, but in no way did those feelings impact my ability to conduct a fair and proper investigation. We followed where the facts took us. P.S. I declined to answer that question on advice from counsel. And then the interviewer is saying, when you state where facts led us, what facts are you referring to? To date, there has been zero evidence of any such collusion or connections between the Trump campaign and Russia. In fact, the only facts discovered thus far have been between the Clinton camp and Russia and other foreign groups. Peter Strzok says, on advice of counsel, I declined to answer that question. Because of the ongoing investigation, such answers may violate the security of such investigations. How about that? So some of Peter Strzok's smarminess was probably just because Peter Strzok's a little bit slimy. But it sounds like, too, some of these answers he's not completely able to answer because of such investigations. Remember, we were talking about outward narrative, inward narrative. Think Huber. You understand? Now, Q has stated before that Peter Strzok was a cooperating witness, despite what we've seen on TV. Mr. Strzok, I believe nobody here is buying what you're selling. I believe that is a serious effort on the part of people more senior than you to remove Mr. Trump from office out of fear of what this administration may uncover. I believe you are being dishonest in your answers and frankly shocked you agreed to come here today. I believe everyone on this panel, minus those from the other side of the aisle, I knew exactly what your answers would be. And if you think we're going to sit here and accept these answers, you would be a foolish. And nobody likes to be called a foolish. I'm not a foolish. I'm a smartish. We are also following the facts, and once we uncover more, which we will act accordingly. I'm glad you retain counsel. You'll need one, and hopefully they are very good. And then we get this long ellipses. Now, a lot of times when I would see these ellipses, I usually assumed it to mean that Q was talking about how do you legally inject evidence. We've seen that before. It looks like Peter Strzok could be on his way back in front of the microphone, giving some testimony for round 2. It'll be interesting to see if he is as smarmy, as snarky as normal, considering he will now be going up against contrasting testimony from Lisa Page. Should be good theater. Let's move on to 1727. We're in an Anon post about CIA Director Gina Haspel. The CIA London station is the main center of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency in the UK. Station Chief, COS, unnamed woman, 2009. Those ordered to testify include the former CIA Chief Porter J. Gross. Another is a woman who is not publicly named who heads the agency's London station. She previously worked as the Chief of Staff for the head of the CIA's clandestine branch, Jose Rodriguez, who is the focus of the investigation. And it takes you to this Guardian article from 2009. Senior Central Intelligence Agency officials, including the London station chief, have been brought before a grand jury in Virginia investigating the potentially illegal destruction of 92 videotapes recording the torture and interrogation of al-Qaeda detainees. A special prosecutor, John Durham, has called the CIA officials as part of an 18-month-long criminal probe into the destruction of evidence of the agency's interrogators using waterboarding and other forms of torture against Abu Zubaydah and Abdul al-Rahim al-Nashiri, who are described by the Americans as high-value detainees now held at Guantanamo Bay. Those ordered to testify include the former CIA chief Porter J. Gross. Another is a woman who is not publicly named. And okay, so we already talked about this. Okay, so this was an investigation regarding the destruction of all these tapes showing torture. And it kind of got signed off that it was okay. President Obama has since pledged not to prosecute individual agents for their part in torture and interrogations because they were assured by the Bush administration that their actions were legal. So, not exactly sure what to think about this. And then I find this, or excuse me, this is actually the Francis Frank Archibald. This is the new head of the CIA clandestine service. Not really new anymore, but he was the one that took over. Now, this is the Miami Herald, dated from July 25th. Defense lawyers say CIA Director Haspel tainted the 9/11 trial. Guantanamo Bay Navy Base, Cuba. Defense lawyers in the September 11th trial have for years argued, mostly unsuccessfully, that a series of remarks by political leaders dating back to the Bush administration have contaminated the possibility of finding an impartial jury of U.S. military officers in the death penalty case. This week, lawyers for the accused, lead 9/11 plotter Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, took aim at remarks the new CIA Director Gina Haspel made in her Senate confirmation hearings and asked the trial judge to either dismiss the charges or remove the possibility of a death penalty because of an alleged unlawful influence. Excuse me. As the court is well aware, since ancient times, as long ago perhaps as Deuteronomy, there's been a presumption of innocence for those accused in any criminal proceeding, one of Mohammed's attorneys, Rita Radostitz, told the judge Monday. In one example, Haspel told senators, "I'm very proud of the fact that we captured the perpetrator of 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I think we did extraordinary work." Other allegedly contaminating remarks, Radostitz cited involved Haspel calling Mohammed the architect and mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, stating that Mohammed was behind the 1993 attack at the World Trade Center and that he was the individual who personally killed a Wall Street Journal correspondent, Daniel Pearl. In none did she note that Mohammed has only been accused of plotting the September 11, 2001 attacks by hijackers who crashed airliners into New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and in a Pennsylvania field killed 2,976 people. Prosecutors say Mohammed has claimed to have killed Pearl. So this is interesting because I'm starting to really wonder, and I've wondered even back when this happened, whether or not Gina Haspel was black hat or white hat. Now, I have a couple theories. It could be very possible that she could be in this picture. After all, there she was back, and back at that time, it would not have been out of place to see her in London, I suppose. Now, I suppose if she were a black hat, maybe we'll start finding some information out in regards to maybe some misdirection regarding the 9/11 trials. We shall see. Now, if she's a white hat, could it possibly be that she was pretending to be a liaison, and all the while she was doing counterintelligence on whether it be Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, John McCain, who knows? So what do you think down below? Do you think she was black hat corroborating or white hat fake liaison? Hard to say. I think that it's very interesting. Q definitely confirms this here. So it looks like Gina Haspel could be making the news. Now we'll see exactly whether or not maybe these messages, this warning to the UK, could the warning have been going to Gina Haspel? And after all, she's one of Pompeo's people. So who knows? I've yet to kind of put my there's not much known about Gina Haspel. As a matter of fact, they don't even know if she's married or not. So obviously there's not a ton on her. We only know kind of her posts where she's worked before, but other than that, not too much is known about her. So it remains to be seen. Let me know what you think. I still want to do some more deep digging on her. I remember coming to the same conclusion last time her name came up, that I just couldn't really put my finger on it. But obviously she's head of the CIA, so there must be something that Trump trusts in her, and maybe that this is all some smoke and mirrors and some disinformation regarding these trials. But I do remember that she got grilled about burning these, the destruction of these tapes. That was a big deal, and it was in the news for quite some time. Let's move on for now. Post 1728. We get this picture here, and we saw this picture back in June. June 10th is where this actual picture was taken, 3:56 a.m. And Q says, unauthorized missile fired. Unauthorized emergency incoming missile threat activated Hawaii. POTUS Air Force One. POTUS reroutes. Coincidence? No MSM investigations. Biggest threat to the American people. All right, well, this was off of near Whidbey Island. Now, I'm going to handle one thing real quick. There was an article going around that was trying to debunk this, saying that this was a helicopter. Please don't link it below, okay? It's junk. I'm tired of seeing that article. The guy knows nothing about photography. He was trying to debunk this as saying that this was a helicopter launching, and it's clearly a missile. Now, I want to take you back to when we actually saw this picture. And here it was. Q said, this is not a game. Certain events were not supposed to take place. Q, this was post 1476. Post 1472, we saw these Alaska volcanoes, G7, okay? And that followed the Singapore summit, if you remember, okay? Q said certain events were not supposed to happen, so let's just take a look at what was going on back then. Post 1474, Fox M1 stolen takedown action KDN.00000. Situation awareness. So, we had a missile fired from what looked to be a submarine. And we see that clue later on in Q's post here. And what we were talking about here was that outwardly this got blamed on China. But Q was kind of letting us know that this was kind of a hijacked situation. And I mean by as far as the communications was going. Q says here, unauthorized missile fired, meaning that it didn't go through the process of being authorized. Somebody must have hacked it or launched it remotely or whatnot. And at the time, Q was talking a lot about missing intellectual property. This was kind of when Q was first alluding that to the fact that this was China that all our intellectual property was going out to. Our military intellectual property, special access programs and all these things like that. This was a result of Imran Awan and all that. Okay? Back to the post. Q says, unauthorized emergency incoming missile threat activated Hawaii. Similar situation. Remember the DEFCON situation in Hawaii, where we had something fired in Hawaii, and there were people there in Hawaii at the time. Do you remember who they were? So what I think Q is trying to say is that these were situations that were squelched, and the mainstream media didn't even really touch on this, but these were blatant attempts on the president's life. Remember, the president was out in the sky because of the North Korea summit as well as the G7. Q is implying that this was an attack on President Trump's life. Now, if you've been following my channel, you kind of remember this story. But now Q just says, POTUS, Air Force One, POTUS, reroutes. Coincidence? No, of course not. This was a near miss. No MSM investigations, biggest threat to the American people. Yeah, I think what Q's trying to tell us here is the fact that the mainstream media did not report 2 attacks on the president's life. And they didn't, if they did touch on it, they didn't touch on it correctly. This is clearly showing what a true threat they really, really are to the American people. Think about this. The people on your TV will not tell you that they're trying to kill the president. And that's a big, big deal. Because what if you just came out on a microphone and just said that to everybody? Can you imagine how that would be looked at? If you went out and got on a mass media stage and you said, ladies and gentlemen, there was a missile fired at our president today and no one's talking about it. Well, that's where we're at. And that's why President Trump is always saying that the MSM is the biggest threat to the American people. Now let's move on to the next post, 1729. And Anon says, where did the missile go? Blown up in the sky. Q says F-16s intercept. Yeah, and if you remember, I was close. I picked the Blue Angels, but it was F-16. Let me take you back. We saw this blue metal in post 1473, blue metal. Now, I thought originally blue metal, I thought of the Blue Angels. Now, it could very well be that these F-16s were being referred to their new blue flanker scheme colors, rather new that they've got. That could be the blue metal that Q was referring to. But there you go. I think the big point here is that there was an attack on our president's life. And back in June, I think Q was posting this picture as a middle finger. After all, let me see if I can get you in on this picture real quick. It's very, very slight. But you can see, what is that thing right there? Looks like a middle finger to the deep state, if you ask me. So, just my guess. Let me know what you think. Now, post 1730. Anon says an F-16 can shoot a missile out of the air. Q says specialized weapons package class 5. I'm not exactly sure what classification 5 would be. Something we clearly don't know about. I wouldn't have thought an F-16 could shoot a missile out of the air either. Q is saying that it's possible. And, I suppose if you have classified 5 specialized weapon package, then I suppose you would know the possibilities of that. I myself am classified SPM. Post 1731. Responding to an Anon said, who has authority to launch a missile? Q said, unauthorized. So, and then Q says, giving chain of command process to launch. What does this tell you? Classification removal, Washington, minutes after. And I'm so glad Q brought this up. I wanted to talk to you about this in yesterday's video. But let's move on to the next post real quick. 1732, adding on to back. Q says specific reason for the reminder. Everything stated has a purpose. It's like I'm thinking with you, Q. Thank you. All right. So what Q's saying here is that given the chain of command to process the launch, let's start with Hawaii. We found out about Hawaii when we had this DEFCON 1 situation back in, what was it, December? I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly. It was sometime December, I believe. We had this launch, and it was on the outward narrative. It was reported as just a false alarm. As a matter of fact, the guy got fired for it, whoever was supposed to be in charge. And the explanation was it was a drop-down menu, and he just chose the wrong thing. Well, I can tell you this with great confidence, and I'm not going to tell you how I know, other than I know with great confidence, that in a situation like that, if you're really, really going to be calling a DEFCON 1 kind of situation, you're dealing with missiles firing and things like that, oftentimes these situations require sort of a multi-key thing. So maybe one person has to turn a key over here, another person has to turn a key over here. That way it's not left up for one person to do. Does that make sense? Now, that's just my guess in this situation, but I feel pretty strongly that that would be that sort of process. Now, in a situation with launching a missile off a submarine, I imagine it would be very much the same way, unless, of course, you've hacked the technology, which was the very implication that Q was making back in June. All right, never mind, I can't find it. So Now Q is saying specific reason for the reminder. Everything stated has a purpose. And this is what I left out in my last video that I wanted to talk to you about today. Remember, what's going on in the news right now? We're talking about what? Security clearances. Why do all these top-level people still have Peter Strzok, John Brennan, James Clapper? Why do these people still have security clearances? Oh, we're so outraged. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Let's go back to post 1731. Given chain of command process to launch, what does this tell you? Classification removal, Washington, minutes after. We're catching up now in the outward narrative by having this faux outrage. I'm guessing here that Q is telling us this was done back then. This was done a while back. Now, it could very well be someone different. Who knows? But Q is definitely implying that whoever pulled this had their classification level removed. And Q is telling us that the specialized weapons package is classification 5. I don't know what classification 5 is. Maybe you do. But do you understand where we're going with this? So we're catching up to this now in the outward narrative because it's time to talk about it. It's time to talk about it. But it looks to me like Q is implying that this has already been done. Just my guess, but that's where I'm getting this with Q. Let's move on. Post 1733. Q takes us back to May. Facebook is listening to you 24/7, 365. Literally. F9 algorithm. Are they recording? Safe housing? Metadata collection? Building 8? DARPA? China. Q. Well, now DARPA essentially is Building 8 at this point. It's Facebook's Building 8. And back last November, Regina Dugan, she resigned from Building 8. She was head into Building 8. And Building 8 is all this research stuff, all this weird stuff. What's going on there? Q's implying metadata collection. Of course, they're always collecting our stuff. And remember, they were investing heavily into trying to get these satellites up in the air. Well, how would they get satellites? They need to get rockets. Rich guys like rockets, right? Rockets like the Falcon 9. And there was a Falcon 9 algorithm that was controlling data. It was absorbing data. It was blocking data. It was passing data. It was, who knows? It was basically everything, it seems like it was being stored up there. Q says, who recently pulled out of Facebook? A lot of people have been pulling out of Facebook, including Zuckerberg himself. Artificial support. Yeah, it's all been propped up. It's no longer a CIA asset, so what are you going to do with it? Now all of a sudden they got to pull all these accounts and start showing how many people are really supporting these platforms. What events recently occurred in China regarding Facebook? They pulled out too, and that's the New York Times article. That's this right here. And I talked about this earlier. Chinese said to quickly withdraw approval for new Facebook venture. Yeah, about a year ago, he was really starting to push this. And now it looks like it's going to fall flat on its face. And of course, given the drop, that's most certainly not going to be a sell. And now they don't have a backup plan to be able to run to China. Facebook is screwed. Why did China suddenly reverse course? Because everybody else reversed course. Everybody knows it's phony. Everybody knows it's failing. And everybody knows that it no longer, and most importantly, no longer has its funding. The more you know, Q. So it looks like China is probably, and I'm not saying that they're necessarily our allies. I would just simply say that I think they want to be able to cooperate with the U.S. And so it makes sense for them to, not go into a venture such as Facebook, which would be very adversarial. So, good luck, Facebook. Good luck, Zuckerberg. Moving on, post 1734. We get this from The Hill. Trump ducks media, cites bad weather despite clear skies as he leaves for Iowa. And the Anon says, POTUS ducks reporters because we were in the storm. A message that nobody who understands. We understand. We know. And I think that's all that matters at this point, right? I think we're getting more and more confirmation from the White House, from Trump, from Q, from the Q team. And it's making things a lot easier. Things aren't quite as cryptic as they used to be. And if you know, you know. And if you don't, you're tripping. Here we go. Post 1735. There's nothing more precious than our children. Evil has no boundaries. And then it takes us to this little ditty by a little up-and-coming band called Slayer. Let me hum you a few bars. Blessings to our ways through the boundaries of hell. No one can stop us tonight. It actually sounds like that. Yeah, look, I grew up with Slayer. I'm pretty bummed. that Q put Slayer in such a post. I grew up with Slayer. I actually met these guys quite a few times. They never seemed very satanic at all. I'm not so sure they're satanic. Maybe he was just referencing the lyrics, which are pretty satanic. And of course, their act is all satanic. I'm not so sure that they are satanic, but who knows these days? Q says, the choice to know will ultimately be yours. These people are sick. And then takes us to this Fox News article here regarding CBS honcho Les Moonves will be accused of sexual misconduct in latest Ronan Farrow bombshell report, says. CBS chairman and CEO Les Moonves will be accused of unwanting kissing and touching in Ronan Farrow's latest #MeToo bombshell for The New Yorker, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Sources with knowledge of the article say it delves into the broader culture at CBS and will publish later today on the magazine's website, the entertainment outlet reported on Friday. Farrow's account in The New Yorker reportedly includes allegations against Moonves, 68, detailing recent claims in addition to incidents that occurred more than 20 years ago. CBS told THR that all allegations of personal misconduct are to be taken seriously and issued the following statements. The independent directors of CBS have committed to investigating claims that violate the company's clear policies in that regard. Upon the conclusion of that investigation, which involves recently reported allegations that go back several decades, the board will promptly review the findings and take appropriate action. All right. Well, I have limited experience with Les Moonves, but this guy is big. And if you know, you know, I suppose. This is CBS. This is Paramount, Viacom, anything that falls under that. And we had all those arrests with Nickelodeon recently. So I think that this is starting to crawl its way to the top. And if you know Les Moonves, you know how big he is. He really is. He's been around forever. And I remember him particularly having a public spat with Dave Letterman back in the day. But yeah, it was kind of known that he was a creep. Now, I never knew much about him. He was a CBS guy, but I had heard some kind of stories and stuff like that. But yeah, it turns out that we've got another creepy McCreepington at the top of CBS going down. Now, this is going to be big. Like I said, Viacom, that's a big, big umbrella. So who knows who else is going to go down with this, but I can't imagine somebody as big as Les Moonves going down without other people. So for those of you who say that nothing's happening and big arrests aren't happening, I would argue that Claire Bronfman and Les Moonves are massive. Really, truly massive. One owns an island. The other one owns a media empire. Now, Moonves hasn't been arrested, so we don't know. Sounds like a lot of allegations going more than 20 years ago. It's a very similar story to Weinstein, so we'll have to kind of see what happens. So it's happening, kids. It's happening. I'm a little bummed about the Slayer, but pretty stoked about Moonves, so I'm back to even. To those who are courageous enough to speak out, we stand with you. You are not alone in this fight. God bless. Q. All right, next post. 1736. Oh. Q says, what are the odds? Well, look at that. That's Robert Mueller. Who's that over there? Is that Donald Jr.? How about that? That's a coincidence. Donald Trump Jr. is trying to leave the country for some, go collude with some Russians. And over here, Robert Mueller, he's looking for tweets. Colluding with Russians. Looking for tweets. What are the chances? How about that? So we got them spotted in a picture together, almost as if they'd had some communication with each other. Well, this is a big chin scratcher, isn't it? How about that? You know what? I'm going to leave this for you below. Tell me what you think about this. What do you think about this? They're at Reagan National. So, looks like Don Jr. is buying the tickets. Mueller's just chilling, waiting with his baggage. Wonder where they're going. Next post, 1737, device test, Q. 1738, device test, E, Q. 1739, device test, X, Q. And 1740, device test, C, Q. Now, this very well could be just 3 different locations for the Q team testing their devices. As far as the EXC order, as opposed to 1, 2, 3 or ABC, something like that. Who knows? Maybe there's some significance in the EXC. Now, a quick search took me here to the Exelon Corp, which is abbreviated EXC. Update 1, Russia signs fourth U.S. uranium deal with Exelon. Exelon Corp to buy Russian uranium directly in 2014 through 2020. So this very well could be a clue. It turns out they are a Rosatom subsidiary. Plans $3 billion bond to fund expansion. Sounds like they've got some coin. So I haven't gone way into this because I don't want to break it down if that's not what EXC really means. But I found this very compelling, and it was the first thing I saw. As you can see, you have EXC as their abbreviation here. So who knows? But this is wrapped up in uranium 1. It's wrapped up with Rosatom. So it seems to me like it could be very, very plausible. Now this was this EXC, this Exacorp, they were big supporters of Barack Obama. They're involved with Vladimir Putin as well. They are also involved with Rahm Emanuel. So I definitely think there are some searches that could be done here, and I haven't done them extensively, but I do think this might be an interesting place to start. But then again, it could just be device test E, device test X, and device test C. You know how this stuff works. You never really know. But there you go. There are some clues. That's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Also, my Patreon link is down below if you want to support me there. Also, you can find me on Twitter at IPOT, IPOT 1776. That is IPOT 1776. I'm also on Gab, BitChute, and Real.Video, and all those links are always in the video description below. All right, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay right there.